Zinc Media. Feel the power of knowledge.
We hold these truths to be self-evident that all men are created equal, that they are endowed by their Creator with different completely. And among these are life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness.
Good evening, my fellow Americans. Yes, it is I, your lovable host, Rod, coming to you live from my bunkerized home studio somewhere within the great granite state of New Hampshire. Yes, the state that has the motto right on its license plates on every single car. Live free or die, not big government or bust. That is on the license plate. Good evening, my fellow Americans. It is Thursday, November the 15th in the year of our Lord 2012. And I know a lot of you have probably had seen Skyfall, the Bond movie, and I'm trying to make some plans to get out to see it this weekend. And I know a lot of others will be have already seen or will see the ending of the Twilight series with Breaking Dawn. You know what? I'm just glad that's over. I haven't seen a single movie. What is it? There's 6 of them, 5 or 6. I don't know. It's hard to keep track. Not interested. I know, so I have a friend of mine who's like, well, it's just like Harry Potter. You said you weren't interested in Harry Potter, and then you got interested in Harry Potter. Well, it was a good friend of mine wanted me to take her to, I think it was like Harry Potter 3. It was 3 or 4. And I said, well, I haven't watched the first Harry Potter, whatever. She goes, well, you're going to have to get the DVDs and rent them. And she actually rented them for me and gave them to me, and I watched them. So by the time we actually went to the movie to see Harry Potter, was at 3 or 4, I don't remember which one. I wasn't sucked into it, but it was a story that I wanted to see the end on. Well, okay, let's see where this is going to go, because each movie got progressively more grown up and darker. The first one was kind of, little kiddie, hocus pocus type of stuff. And then the final Harry Potter movie, that was an adult movie. That was probably skirting with rated R. It was pretty dark and gruesome. But it was entertaining. But I just don't get into this werewolf vampire crapple, especially, I'm in love with a vampire, bite me on the neck so I can be a vampire too. No, it's a curse. It just doesn't. And I've heard a lot of critics about books. Some of these book critics, I mean, they panned the writing of. I've never read them, so I don't know who the author is or how good she actually is, but I haven't really other than people who just happen to go to the movies to see them, I haven't seen, serious, not that I listen to critics anyway, but I haven't seen a critic that is like the books. I've seen some pretty nasty stuff written about, she can't write, they're terrible, they're juvenile. Well, yeah, I guess it is kind of juvenile. That's who they're aimed at, I suppose. But it's the end of the Twilight series, thank goodness. And a lot of people, and this is nothing against what's the Taylor Taylor Lautner. Nothing against him. I thought he was part Asian, but as it turns out, he's part Native American, and there is some resemblance. Because Native Americans, there are Native American tribes that have a very strong Asian-looking influence, because after all, they did walk across the land bridge from that part of the world. So it's I guess you could say that. I guess if you go far enough back in time, you could say that Native Americans are actually a form of Asian. I guess you could go that far. But I thought he was. But as it turns out, he's part Native American. And I don't know what tribe. I had made the comment, and I said, well, he's I guess a lot of people think he's a good-looking half-Asian man, and I was summarily corrected by another female. She was probably about 17 years old. He's not Asian. He's Native American. So that's how I found out. So I mean, but there. Well, it's funny. It's funny how everybody knows about celebrities, but they don't know about politics. Don't get me wrong. Celebrities, being a celebrity is. Knowing about celebrities is not a bad thing, but when that's all you know, when that is all, we're in trouble. Because look, I have said this over and over again. The problem mainly with our current situation in government, as it stands, is simply because of the public educational system. Plain and simple. Because, first of all, they don't know anything. And what little they do know has been slanted to the left severely. Severely. I mean, what? Look what they tell you. Here, let me be frank. Let me be very clear on this. When you talk to somebody, say, who's under the age of 30 or 35, what do you get from many of them? You get a lot of soundbite stuff. For instance, global warming. Now, it's not as if they know any facts about global warming. It is just something that is built into their psyche to accept it no matter what. Oh, yeah, there's man-made global warming. And then when you challenge them, it has been built into their psyche not to react with logic and fact, but to get angry about it. Don't let anybody challenge you on global warming. They're just pricks and jerks and assholes and all that kind of stuff. They're not given the facts. Okay, here, little Johnny, here are the facts that scientists say. No, they're not given. They're just told, oh, no, you and your family are causing global warming. You got to turn off your lights and tell your dad to stop driving the SUV because he's causing it. Well, why? Because he's burning gas. That's the extent of their education on it. But it is ingrained in them so badly. It's ingrained in them so hard that it becomes like a faith. But it's a faith that is built on a lie. It's a faith that is not backed up with anything. They're not taught to back it up with anything. They're just taught to get angry and fight you on it and call you names. Plain and simple. And that's what a lot of stuff on the left. Oh, you just don't care. Well, really? All right. Another example happens to be with taxing the rich. Even people who are, under the age of 30, who are not liberal, they're conservative. I've talked to a few. They even talk about, well, yeah, the rich need to pay more in tax. They need to pay their fair share. Like, what are you talking about? How does that make any sense? Here are the numbers. You know the numbers. And when you give young conservatives the numbers, they still say, but they should still pay more. Well, that doesn't make any sense. Why does it make sense to them? Because it has been ingrained in them so bad and so hard that it is even hard for them to shake it off. This class warfare stuff, it's not fair that they get to make $1 million. And this stuff happens to be true to them. It's not fair that someone should be able to make $1 million. I mean, when you talk to the young, you begin to realize that there is a commonality with them all. And then you start to realize that those people who do not happen to toe the line, even if no matter what their political affiliation, you find that most of them were not educated completely in the public school arena. Those who would disagree and who would be able to successfully enunciate their reasoning behind their disagreement, they come from a private school, a parochial school, or a home school or a charter school environment, not a public school environment. At least part of their primary education in high school years came from other than public school education. So the instrument that is going to be the tool, that is going to be the instrument of our nation's salvation, is that we have to take back the public school system. And how do we do that? Is there a way to fix it? No, not as long as you have liberals involved. It is not going to get fixed. How do you fix the problem then, Rod? Very simple. Choice. You have to do it at your state level. It's not going to happen on a national level. You can forget it. You're going to have to press your state legislature and government to give you the right to send your child wherever you want to send them to school. Vouchers. Now, if it causes some public schools to close, then so be it. If some public school teachers lose their jobs, then so be it. I don't have a problem with that. It'll also cause some, especially inner cities, because I brought this up last night. How can you be black and support liberals? I mean, look what they've done to us. Look what they've done to blacks. Blacks, and now to a certain degree, certain Latino groups, but mostly blacks. Blacks attend the worst performing schools in the nation, bar none. That is governmental fact, folks. I'm not making that up. I don't have to make it up. It is governmental statistical fact that the absolute worst performing schools in this country are attended by predominantly black students. They're not teaching blacks a damn thing. They're not teaching them a damn thing. And they're, well, that's part of the reason. They're pretty ignorant. I hate to say it, they are. I mean, now understand this. Ignorant is not the same as stupid. Ignorant is just basically